My name is Emily, and I'm a marketing manager at a local business here in Fort Wayne. And I really like getting involved in the community and trying to help better the community for myself, for others, and for the future kids too. Growing up, I grew up in a Catholic family. My mom is one of 7 kids, and there's about 30 of us grandkids. And the majority of us, we grew up in the Catholic church, if not, at least Christian. And I remember when I was 8 or 9 years old, my mom being really upset about something, and she kept saying, is grandpa. And, I finally asked her, well, what's wrong with grandpa? She said, grandpa has HIV. And I didn't know what that meant. I was only, 8 or 9 years old. All I knew was that it meant something yucky. It was something bad. No one ever explained it to me. And honestly, I think it's because my mom and no one else really understood what it was. They just knew that it was really bad. We didn't talk about it. And coming from a very religious background, it was a very taboo conversation to have, especially because, and I don't even know at what point I realized this or knew this about him, but coming from a Catholic family, he actually was a gay man. With 7 grown children and all these grandchildren, and he was married and a big Catholic family. What do you say about that when it's, you have this grandpa that is gay, who has HIV, and on top of it, come to find out, he was also an intravenous drug user. You don't talk about stuff like that. You don't talk about drug use. You don't talk about HIV or being gay or anything like that. And so it was swept under the rug. And I remember many times while he was still alive, and especially after, where some of the family would get irritated or upset if anyone brought it up, because you don't talk about that, even though it was their father or their grandfather or what have you. It was there was a lot of shame. I'm not exactly sure why it wasn't really discussed a lot, because with my grandma being a nurse, I would think that she would have some knowledge about HIV or AIDS, and perhaps she did, and maybe she shared it with her kids, with the grown kids, but it definitely was never discussed with us grandkids. And again, going back to the it being taboo because we're Catholic, I don't know. And again, I don't think my mom knew either. So I don't think anyone discussed it with her, because she's the one who told me, don't ever take a drink from him, don't take any food, nothing. But we all do the best we can with the knowledge that we have. And I think we just didn't have the knowledge. At one point during the illness, he was so sick that he could not even walk with his walker. He couldn't, take care of himself. So I don't remember who found it. It was probably my grandma or who suggested it, but he ended up going to the Jack Ryan house here in Fort Wayne. And I remember hearing about this, but not knowing what it was. I just remember my mom or someone telling me it's a home for these people, these men, to come to a supportive group, supportive atmosphere while they're living out their dying days. And I remember I thought it was so awesome, because I knew how isolated he was and how alone he was. And I remember we went to visit him one time, and as soon as I walked in, I was greeted by a couple guys that were bald, and they were probably in their 40s or 50s, and they were very much gay. They were very open about it, but it was so welcoming. And they had big smiles on their faces, and they were laughing, and they were having fun and playing games. And I remember walking in just feeling so overwhelmingly happy that my grandpa was able to find a place like this where he wasn't alone, he wasn't isolated. And okay, you're dying, but that doesn't mean that you can't still live until your last breath. I remember we were all in the room. He was laying in the bed, and we were just all surrounding him, just sitting around, just no one's really talking. No one knows what to say or what to do. We're just kind of sitting there just watching him. And the whole time his breathing is labored and he's having a hard time catching his breath. And every now and then he would get in a coughing fit. And as soon as we would have to hurry up and get him the bedpan. And he was just coughing up blood clots, just clot after clot. And I remember sitting there just staring at it like, what am I watching? Like, I am watching him dying from the inside out, and it was insane to watch this. And my grandpa is one that has always loved humor. He loves to laugh. He loves to smile. And there was none of that going on. And I'm the kind of person that I love making people smile. Even in hard times, I try to find the positive in things. So I remember grabbing some of the latex gloves that were in the room, and I just started blowing them up. And then I was drawing faces on them and tying the fingers to make it look like hair, and my grandpa just started laughing. And there were a couple guys there actually from the Jack Ryan house, now that I remember it, that were by his bedside too, just being supportive, and they were laughing and he was laughing. No one else in the room was laughing. None of my family members. They were actually pretty upset with me that I was doing this. They thought I was, making a joke of this, but I knew that my grandpa needed that, and he did. And I was just happy that I might have been one of the last people to make him smile and to make him laugh. So I carry that with me, and it's very comforting. But just watching him on his deathbed, coughing up that blood is a sight I will never forget in my life. And my grandma still has those latex gloves. She saved them because looking back, she knew what it meant to him, and it meant a lot to her that he was able to laugh and let go a little bit. Looking back, my biggest regret and sadness is realizing how isolated and alone my grandpa was, especially in his last few months here on Earth. And it was simply because we were uneducated about HIV or AIDS. Unless your life is impacted by HIV or AIDS, why would you even think of, researching it or getting to know anything about it? But it's important for prevention. And I think the more we talk about it, the more people will realize that in today's world, it's not so taboo, and there's ways to protect yourself, and we don't have to isolate each other. We don't have to just ignore the problem and sweep it under the rug. I'm Emily, and I support the Positive Resource Connection.